Welcome, everyone. For those that may not know me, I'm Filip Vucic. I'm a creation business major, specializing in planning and analysis. And today we're going to tackle what often feels like one of the hardest parts of running your own business, pricing. So my goal is to show you why pricing feels so challenging and give you actionable tools to make it easier. Let me start with my, let's say, origin story. So 4 years ago, during the pandemic, life hit me hard. I had left the corporate world a couple of years earlier to take care of my dad, and when the lockdown hit, it coincided with the biggest earthquake my city had experienced in 150 years. So that left me with no active projects, a hole in my roof, a small kid, and a very, very pregnant wife. So that's that's when you get creative, right? So I took what I've been doing with Croatian companies for years, helping them with pricing, and applied it globally. Over Zoom, sitting in my attic at first. And it worked. First in Australia, which is still my biggest market, and then all over the world. And here we are. Today, I can say I've worked with over 200 clients across 5 continents on their pricing challenges. Along the way, I've learned much, not only from my own impressive collection of pricing mistakes, but also from my clients. This is why I'm here to talk to you about pricing, particularly for services based on expertise, so for independent experts and agencies. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy to see so many of you today. Oh, let's admit one more. And let's dive in. So, pricing feels so hard because it seems like it should be about math. And math can be hard, but with so little direct costs in expert services, it's manageable. There's tools that can help you, right? But math is actually the easy part. And it's not what makes pricing decisions difficult. Pricing is hard because it combines all of our fears and taboos into one complex cocktail. It forces us to put our insecurities under a spotlight in front of serious people, which we need to impress just to pay our bills. So, not exactly anyone's idea of a good day. And there's a catch. No one has an incentive to teach you how to price. Letting one more in. So yeah, no one has the incentive to teach you how to price. So employers, they focus on maximizing margins, not empowering you to price yourself fairly one day when you leave. Academia is just as lost as you are. And competitors, well, they certainly don't want leveling you up. Alan excluded. He wants you to be his competitor and thrive. Um, but you could work in an industry for 30 years and you will gain expertise which will improve delivery and processes and even client management through experience. But pricing, no. Pricing is something that you're forced to learn on your own. And even when you try to learn, it's incredibly difficult without stakes. It's like trying to learn poker without anything on the line. It doesn't have to be money. I have the experience of, loser washes the dishes for 10 people when we're out camping. So that adds stakes. But without any kind of stake, real learning just doesn't happen in pricing. So the biggest challenge that I would say above all of that is feeling trapped in a rigged game. Because if you charge too much, clients leave. And if you keep your prices the same, the rising costs will eat you alive. No wonder raising prices is the least favorite activity for most agency owners and experts that I know. So, what do most people do? Well, more importantly, what do you do? So, could you be so kind to share something in the chat? How do you set your prices? How do you raise your prices? So just take a moment to think about it right now, or share your approach in the chat if you like. I'll return to that later, but I'm curious at what you're going to write right now. And whatever you're going to write, um, it usually uh, relies on guesswork, or worse, copying other people's guesswork. And what does that lead to? Financial strain, burnout, guilt, resentment, and worst of all, missed opportunities. And those struggles might feel familiar, and judging by some of the faces I see, they're familiar to at least some of you. And for some, they seem even inevitable. But they're not, at least not in this stage in your career. Um, so allow me a tangent here. Do you know how circus elephants are trained? It's not going to spoil your lunch. It's not horrible, but um, when they're small and weak, uh, baby elephants are tied to posts. So they pull and struggle, but they can't break free. They're not strong enough. And eventually they give up. And years later, when they're fully grown and quite strong enough to pull the post out with ease, they don't even try because they've learned it's pointless. To the elephant, that flimsy string cage feels unbreakable. Fortunately, I'm not giving a webinar to elephants. That's where we're here, ladies and gentlemen, to take a shot at breaking free. And it can be done. Some of you know David personally. I'm going to talk about David Hubbard, an Australian consulting entrepreneur who is an incredibly kind and talented professional. And when I met him, he proudly shared what he thought was a great success story. His client achieved a 19 times return on investment on his last project. It sounds impressive, right? But to me, it was a glaring sign of massive undercharging. Consider this. Most clients would be thrilled with a 3 times ROI, so 300%. 5 times, exceptional. 19 times, that raises red flags. It means that you're either massively undercharging and don't know much about the industry they're in. So David does. So the client starts to wonder, what else don't you know about his industry? Or the client realizes they got a massive discount and then struggles to understand why. What did you leave out? And why did you leave it out? Right? It's it's like somebody offering to sell you a car for $200. Would you even consider buying it? No, something is obviously wrong with this, right? And it's worrying. And um, pricing wasn't even David's only challenge. His offer structure was chaotic. It was short engagements requiring constant renegotiation. So 2 months here, 3 months there, um, renegotiations. This piecemeal approach left him overwhelmed and over-delivering and regretting how much more impactful his work could have been if the clients had recognized its value upfront. So, together, we revamped his approach. We built a streamlined, year-long offer priced at twice his original rate. I'll explain shortly why that worked so well, but make no mistake, David is a true expert, deeply intelligent, experienced, and professional. But like so many others, he was spinning his wheels. Um, a master of his craft, yet trying to do everything everywhere all at once in his business. And the result was exhaustion, regret, and chronic undercharging for extraordinary results. So this page, this space left intentionally blank. If we're the elephants in this story, able to break free but unaware of it, then the stake in the ground is fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of embarrassment, fear of making things worse. But most of all, fear of the dark, fear of the unknown. Pricing is full of contradictions and confusion for us, right? There's professionals charging well above market average for years without issue, discounts failing to attract clients, amateurs undercutting the market, and the list goes on. When I talk about pricing, I emphasize fearless pricing. Once people understand what's really happening, they stop fearing the topic. And pricing moves away from being life, death, and taxes, those inevitable, untouchable things that we'd rather avoid thinking about. So let's talk about the core problem. Over the years, I've worked with a hugely diverse range of professionals: gynecologists in Vienna, lawyers and developers in Croatia, coaches and designers in Australia, accountants and consultants in North America. Despite their differences, they all face the same issue. They're selling to people who are amateurs in their field. And that's why a client needs you, because they don't know what you do know. But there's a catch. Because they don't understand your work, they can't see the full value. And because they don't see the value, they won't pay for it. But even if they did understand the value, they then it would be trouble. Why? Because in order to be able to see the value that you bring, they would have to know so much about what you do, they wouldn't need you anymore. They would be the expert in your field themselves. So that's the expert's paradox. So people who need you don't value you because they can't. If they could, they wouldn't need you anymore. They would be colleagues, right? So they don't disregard our value. They don't understand it. They don't see it. And that's kind of a good thing, because that's why they need you in the first place. So we're stuck. But this paradox is the foundation of everything that we're discussing today. And in a minute, I'll start showing you how to address this with specific actions as we move forward. Well, drink of water. Okay. Right. Let's break down what I mean by value first, because it's a loaded term, I know. Specifically, I'm talking about the value the client expects to see. Think of your expertise as this big, beautiful, bright circle. Everything you can do for a client, all the results you can deliver, they're here. Now, the client's expectations are this smaller box over here. And they can only see the part of your expertise that overlaps with their expectations, with the box, right? There's also the dark part of the box, which is expectations the client might have about your work, but that you're not responsible for delivering, and that's fine, you're not billing for those. But here's the crucial part. Clients only feel comfortable paying for what's in the overlap. That's the perceived value. Not the full value, that's this. But the value they recognize and expect. Whoa, sorry. If they can't see it, they won't pay for it, even if it's incredibly valuable, objectively. This is why understanding perceived value is critical for effective pricing. And this is the core of the expert's paradox in action. It explains why adding more and more to your offer doesn't work. Many of you have probably tried this. I have. Piling on extra features, extra services, extra discounts to justify your price, hoping it will make the client say, wow, that's irresistible. But the reality is, if the client doesn't perceive most of the value, adding more value doesn't help. In fact, it often makes things worse. The bigger the circle, the harder it is to explain, and when the clients don't understand, the overlap can get smaller, not larger. And this leads to frustration and burnout before it results in an offer, in an irresistible offer, right? It results with bigger offers that cost you more but still don't sell. So selling more expensive services is not about providing more, doing more. I know many of you here, and you dish out plenty of value already. It's about making the overlap, the perceived value, clearer and more compelling. This is also why professionals skilled in consultative sales can charge significantly more than those offering off the shelf services at market rates. Consultative sales focus on uncovering and communicating value, so enlarging this, while off the shelf services rely on standard pricing and minimal interaction. When people ask how my work makes a difference, how do you raise people's prices? I explain it like this. I help push this box, toward the center of the value circle. This simple shift can create a dramatic change in how clients perceive and pay for your expertise. Okay, so I promise to tell you what's really going on. Pricing is simple in principle, right? You all know this. Your price can't be lower than your cost and can't be higher than the value that the clients perceive. And by the way, this is the overlap that we just talked about, right? This is the client. This is where the client's box of expectations meets your spotlight. That's what we're talking about here when we say value. The client makes the purchasing decision and doesn't care about your margins. So while it's true that margins grow thinner, the client doesn't care. Margins tell you how good of an idea it is to sell what you're selling. But it doesn't tell anything to the client whether it's a good idea to buy what you're selling. That decision is based entirely on the size of the gap between the price they pay, this one, and the perceived value, and nothing else. So you could increase your margins significantly. And as long as the perceived value remains high, the clients just won't question it. Margins, like the cost of your time or resources, matter to you, but they don't matter to the client. Their decision is solely about whether whether it justifies the price to them. This is why I emphasize value so strongly. It's one of only two factors that drive a client's decision to buy. And this is fundamentally different from commoditized services, where quantity often defines the value. For example, 3 oranges are worth more than one, and 6 are worth more than 3 because more is better. The same happens with commoditized services like car washing. 1 is less expensive than 3, 3 is less expensive than 6 because more is better. But with expertise-based services, this rule simply breaks down. Because would you prefer your lawyer to resolve your issue in 1 month or 1 year? Which dentist provides better value, the one who fixes your problem in a single visit or in 3? And would this webinar really be better if it lasted 6 hours? I assure you it wouldn't. In expertise, less time and greater efficiency often actually mean more value. So, the idea that more is better simply doesn't apply to expertise-based services. And before we continue, can you think of other examples where more doesn't mean more value? So you can tell me about your services or in your field or others that you have encountered. I'm always interested in new examples because the dentists grow old as a joke. So let's wrap up the discussion on value with one final concept. Experiential goods. These are services where the value is only fully understood after they've been experienced. It's a concept that we'll explore here. And think about this. How often have you heard clients express surprise at how much they really gain from your service after the fact? That's the nature of experiential goods. Their value can only be fully appreciated once they've been experienced. And the challenge is you have to sell your service before the clients experience it. And so they have to make the decision before they see the value, right? While they still perceive a very small fraction of the value, as we said. This creates a problem for experiential services like yours and mine. And let me explain this further with a metaphor I call the jar. Imagine your service as the contents of a jar on a shelf. You've invested in making the jar look appealing, but it's not transparent. Clients can't see what is inside. It does have a label, but since your perspective is from inside the jar, you can't fully admitting two more people. Okay. Sorry. Oh yeah, the jar. Since you're looking from inside the jar, you can't fully verify what the label communicates. Clients can only understand two things at the first glance. The category of the service, so is it a mustard jam, an ointment jam, uh, jar, not jam, and the price. So its shape and its price. And these two factors, so category for you, it is going to be like consultant, coach, mentor, specialist, and price will be crucial to shape their expectations, which in turn shape how much they expect to pay. This is going to have profound consequences of how pricing works. And it's very important that you understand this. So by default, the only thing they know is which category you come from and how much your price is. And let's shift our focus from the value to the cost, because this gap between value and their price or their costs, not your costs, their costs. The larger it is, the more attractive your offer is, right? So it's not just the amount of value, because if you provide a huge value but you also charge them a lot, that's not going to be as attractive. So we, as sellers, think of price as the number we charge. And this is here under monetary cost, right? But their perception of cost is different because it goes beyond the monetary figure. The amount of money they pay is okay, so it's what they give to you, but there's also taxes, for instance. Clients do pay them, but they're not really part of your income. But this goes way beyond taxes. There are other, even less tangible costs clients consider. Let's explore three examples. Imagine your favorite hairdresser or chiropractor moves to another city, an hour and a half away. Now, their price hasn't changed once you get there. But for you, the cost is now much higher. You now have to sacrifice half a day, pay for gas, parking, and deal with the inconvenience of the journey. Even though technically the monetary price remains the same, the overall cost feels much greater to you. So that's the convenience cost. Even if the monetary cost didn't change, you absolutely feel it. Second thing, would I send my kids to the cheapest dentist that I know? No, I wouldn't. Would you? No? Why not? Isn't the lowest price the best price? Of course not. And here's why. It's about risk cost. A low price might save money, but introduces other potential costs, fear, pain, phobias, or long-term problems when it comes to dentists. When something feels too good to be true, you've seen offers like that. That feeling of undefined risk, that reason why you wouldn't even consider buy a car for $200, that prevents people from seeing monetary cost as the only factor because it's not. And then there's the ego cost, the hidden price of humiliation or discomfort. Imagine a banknote on the ground, but somebody has clearly spit on it. Would you pick it up? Probably not. Here's a better example. Would you attend workplace provided marriage counseling if everyone in the office would know that you used it? Right? It's free. Technically, it costs nothing. But does it really cost nothing? Ego cost can outweigh even a zero monetary price. In all three examples, convenience, risk, and ego price, these are services where trust is essential. You can always find a new dentist or counselor, of course, but you're reluctant to switch because of what's at stake. This is again different from what we experience in commoditized services. Lower monetary cost doesn't automatically mean better value. Here's the rule. Clients will accept much higher prices if the other costs, inconvenience, risk, or ego, are lower. You probably heard the saying, nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM, right? That thing got them millions. Why? Because IBM represents a very low risk cost. It's not cheap by any means, but clients gladly pay a premium for the confidence that comes with their reputation. And that's the key. Clients are willing to pay more when they perceive the risk as low, right? So now that you understand that it's about that gap between the value and the cost and what the cost entails, that it's not just the money, we've covered how this works and the behavioral science behind it. So let's talk about what you can do about it. So they say the main difference between theory and practice is that in theory, they're the same thing, but in practice, they're not. Now that you understand the game better, let's talk about how to play it. Firstly, you'll need some real data. It's as simple as having a few conversations with the right people. Now, if you're asking yourself what type of people are the right people that I'm talking about here, I want you to imagine you got a wish from a genie. So every client from now on in your life will be a copy of a great client you had in your past. So same need, different name, same level of complexity and challenge, so it's not boring, and an inflation-proof budget, right? Who would you choose? You can write that down if you like. You don't have to publish that, but it would be useful if you had that client in mind. Next, we'll tackle the common thieves of confidence that undermine our pricing decisions, and I'll tell you why that's important. And finally, I'll show you how to adjust your approach for raising prices with new clients versus existing ones. So let's break it down step by step. Okay, so first rule, stop asking how much would you pay or how much do you think is fair. It might seem harmless, but it creates a direct conflict of interest and hands out an inordinate amount of control of the conversation and your worth over to the client. Instead, flip the script. After explaining the value, the steps, the details, ask them, how much do you think I'm already charging? So how much do you think I'm charging for this? This shifts the focus and keeps you in control. Now, this isn't about fishing for information. Here's how to approach this. You write down your price beforehand. So if you're in a virtual setting, type it into a chat, but don't send it yet, and tell them this. So I've typed my price into the chat. As soon as you answer my question, I'm going to press enter and you're going to see it, right? So you've pre-written it and you'll show them as soon as they answer the question. This keeps the process transparent and professional. And this subtle shift avoids negotiation pitfalls and anchors the conversation in your favor. The client can respond in one of three ways. They might guess your price exactly, in which case, congratulations. Um, if they overestimate, thank them graciously. Oh, thank you. What a compliment. No, definitely not yet, but this is my current rate. Very glad you think so. If they underestimate, that's also fine. You just own the moment. You say, dang, looks like I need to get better at explaining the value. The price stays, but could you share what would make this service of mine feel worth that amount to you? So, whatever they say, you're going to get an insight. Either you're dead right, or uh, what you're saying sounds more expensive than you're making it to be, or you're going to get something specific about what would make your value worth the money. And sometimes, and I've seen this happen, client says something and you're already offering it somewhere in that huge circle of yours, but you haven't mentioned it. So this gives you a redo on this, right? Um, if multiple clients overestimate your price, by the way, say 3 out of 5 people you talk to, that's a sign you're undercharging. A really big sign you're undercharging. So you adjust your rates in the future, not for this client, closer to the average of those overestimates. Um, it it may happen that they largely overestimate. It happened to some of the people on this very call that they largely underestimated their price. Hi, Martina. Happy to see you. You're not the only one. You're just the best example. If okay, so this overestimation shows your price already aligns with a higher price point, and you're just late in seeing this. And this is nothing to be ashamed of. This is nothing special. We all do it because there's all sorts of signals if your price is too high, but basically none if your price is too low, and that's trouble. Right. Let's talk about confidence because many people equate a competitive price. So what does it mean for a competitive price? A competitive paycheck means that it's high or as high as it should be, but a competitive price means it's as low as it should be, right? Um, but in expertise-based services, competitive doesn't mean cheap. It means confident. It's a fundamental shift in thinking. Because clients seek specialists only when their confidence drops below the severity of their problem. It sounds complicated, but it isn't. Take me, for example. I'm 40, and let's say my back starts to hurt. If somebody offered me a budget friendly chiropractor at this point, I'd decline. Why should I pay good money for somebody to come and tell me how to sit? I know I'm sitting wrong, okay? I can handle this myself. I'll maybe pay for a cheap massage, feel better for a day, and try to forget about it. And so it goes. And then one morning, I can't move because of the pain. And that's the moment where my confidence in handling the problem falls below my perception of its severity, right? The issue might have been just as bad yesterday, but I wasn't aware of it. When the problem feels bigger than my confidence, it was here yesterday, now it's here, I can't rely on myself anymore. I need to buy confidence from an expert. But at this point, I still wouldn't want a budget chiropractor. I don't know enough about chiropractors to judge who's good or bad at their job, but I do feel like I need a good one because I'm in pain and I can't move. I'm willing to pay for expertise at this point, But since I can't verify expertise, I won't trust someone whose price feels insecure in the value that they provide because they likely don't know enough to solve this serious issue that I see as serious. And I'm not going to take that chance. So I also don't have time to research this. My back hurts and I have stuff to do, and I need the solution now. So I'll start asking around for recommendations, and you know that works. And if I'm lucky, someone will have a trusted expert to refer. If I don't get the recommendation, then what's left as a choice? I'm left with only two indicators that I can rely on. If you remember from the jar metaphor, right? Whether a person seems nominally qualified, the shape of the jar, or and their price. That's how I'll make my decision. Of course, I know in theory that the high price doesn't guarantee expertise. I'm aware of that. But I can't tell them apart anyway. So when I see a high price, for me that signals confidence. And if they're confident without reason, they likely wouldn't stay in business for long. So to me, confidence equals a good enough signal of competence. So if their price is high, their confidence must be high. And if their confidence must be high, there must be something behind it, preferably competence. And in that troubled state, I don't have time to seek perfection. I just need to see enough confidence and hope for the best. Once I find them, I want them to shut up and take my money. Okay, get me out of this. And that's what we all are, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we all are. We are vending machines for confidence. They put money in one side and the other side comes out extra. Um, so confidence or competence that they can use to solve their problem. And this is why positioning yourself as the affordable expert actually undermines your value. In this context, affordable simply translates to less confident and consequently less capable. And that may seem harsh, and it is, or rash, and it is. But remember your own reluctance to send your kids to a cut price dentist. Hiring experts requires trust, and discount trust is no trust at all. Now, I promised to talk about raising your prices without losing clients. And let's start with new clients because they're easier. Conventional wisdom recommends cautious, incremental adjustments and conservative conversations about value. But let's be honest, that approach simply isn't fast enough for today's world, where costs are rising everywhere. When working with new clients, start by projecting confidence, more than you think is necessary. We're often our own harshest critics, focusing on flaws that clients wouldn't even have a prayer of noticing. So set the expectations high and always ask clients, what's the ideal outcome for you in this project? That doesn't mean letting clients dictate the scope, especially the new ones. Clients know their goals and budgets and limits and deadlines, but they often have no idea how to achieve them. This is your responsibility. It's your responsibility to define the scope just as you would trust a surgeon to plan your operation without your input on the details. Because you're not a waiter, you're not their waiter, you're their surgeon. And that's a fundamental shift. Once you set the expectations high, you present your offer confidently. And yes, some people will walk away, but that's not a tragedy. Because just like magnets, your pricing should attract the right clients while repelling the wrong ones. The clients who walk away from a confidently stated high price are usually those who can't afford you, or even worse, those who believe they already know everything and they just need to tell you what to do. These aren't the projects you want. Trust me. If you don't have to work with them, don't. Handling price changes with existing clients requires a different approach. Firstly, I don't think it's ever a good idea to surprise people in the business relationship, not even pleasantly, um, but especially not unpleasantly. So you avoid ambushes, right? Gradual adjustments like a 40% increase over 6 months are far easier for clients to accept. And whatever you do, avoid asking, how do you feel about paying more? The answer is always going to be no, even if it's polite. Unless, of course, they're embarrassed by how little they've been paying you. I've seen that happen. And yes, that happens more often than you think. Instead, communicate clearly why the increase reflects the growing value you deliver and how it aligns with their interests. For example, dear client, when we started, the value was here and the price was here and it was balanced and it was fine. This is how we can tell that the value has grown. So all I'm asking is for the price to follow, right? Something like that. Never bring up your costs. Clients don't care about your margins. Like I said, they care about the gap between what they pay and the value they receive. If that gap has grown, that's your reason for adjusting the price. And that alone. Costs, margins, internal challenges don't matter to them, and they shouldn't be a part of the conversation. Confidence is key in pricing because it reinforces your value. Hesitation undermines it. If you seem unsure about either the new price or the value you deliver, clients can check and they will trust you that they should be worried about this, and they will be even less certain because they lack context, and they'll start questioning the quality of your work. I'm sure you've seen it happen. Here's an old pricing joke for you. I told my barber to double his prices, and he panicked. Double my prices? Golly, I'll lose half my clients. And have the same revenue with half the work. Terrifying. Yet, I've seen this exact fear in real life. The fear of losing clients over price increases is often exaggerated. Expertise based services aren't like commodities, where a small price difference can cause clients to switch. So just because that dentist or accountant is desperate enough to offer a 20% discount, that doesn't mean that I'll end the relationship with my accountant who I've been with for 5 years to run to the guy that obviously is desperate for more work. Maybe there's a reason that he is, right? Um, so no one debates which oranges to buy. They're interchangeable. But would you feel the same about replacing your trusted lawyer or accountant? Like I said, probably not. And this is important. When you raise your price by 20%, you might assume you'll lose about 20% of your clients. But this is rarely true for expertise-based services. Price elasticity, as the economists call it, applies to things like wheat or oil, not the specialized services you provide. Price elasticity, of course, exists, but expertise-based services tend to be price inelastic. It's like the difference between selling candy and selling medicine. Both are small products you put in your mouth to feel better, but one is interchangeable and susceptible to buyer flight with slight price increases, and the other is not. I've learned that most expertise-based services, just like medicines, have inelastic demand, and that means that if you raise your price by 20%, you might lose 3% of your clients. The same applies to discounts. Lower your price by 30% and you'll likely gain only a few more clients because it's inelastic. It reacts less than you would think, even when you would want it to react. So many of my clients learned this the hard way during the pandemic. They wanted to lower the price to get more clients. They lowered the price, they didn't get any more clients or barely. So discounts will not work in your favor because expertise is not a commodity. Let me explain why losing a few clients isn't a big deal. So most people will not like you, but it's not a big deal. I've always noticed that many of us in the business of expertise undervalue our services, and initially I blamed the short-sighted clients and poor education. But I came across a key insight from Ulrich Leszko Schmidt, a great SaaS pricing expert, and it completely changed my perspective on this. I realized I was missing a key piece of the puzzle. Let me use this to explain. Picture your price and three types of clients. So this is your price, right? And type 2 client thinks that price is perfect. Type 1 clients thinks it's too high and they're vocal about it. They'll tell you, if you lowered it by this much, then I will pay. So you're missing all of this money, right? And their dissatisfaction is a visible wound. You're aware of that you're losing money to them. But there's another type, the type 3 clients who would happily pay more. They see you as a bargain, sometimes an embarrassingly big one. And the catch is that they'll never tell you that up front, creating this invisible cancer of a loss. So if this is a wound, this is a cancer. Because why would they tell you, right? And usually, by the way, they only realize it after the fact because remember how experiential goods work. But even when they refer you, they know your value. They're not going to say, this guy's great. You should pay him more than he asked for it. People don't do that. So by running away from the visible loss, by minimizing the visible loss, being afraid of losing money here, we usually tend to lose even more money here. Right. You don't have to offer more or work harder to address this type of client. There's plenty of room left in that bright circle of yours that we talked about in the beginning. It's about communicating the value that's already there and uh, doing it in a way that the type 3 clients are happy to pay the premium. It doesn't have to be called the same service. It's basically the same service with some bells and whistles that basically cost you nothing. I've seen this work. There are people in this Zoom room today that did this with me. Okay. Remember the elephant tied to the post. It's not the post holding it back. It's grown up now. It's just the belief that it can't break free. That's how pricing still feels for many of us. Fear of rejection, fear of losing clients, fear of doing it wrong keeps us tied down. But these fears aren't reality, they're just beliefs. And beliefs can change. So here's what you can do right now or from tomorrow to start transforming your pricing. First, in the next client conversation, try asking, what do you think I charge? This one question can reveal invaluable insights about how clients perceive your value. And then take those insights, not just for the new clients, but also for the old clients. So you know, okay, what I'm providing is mostly now tracking at this amount, right? So plan a gradual increase for your existing clients. Explain it clearly, connect it to the growing value you deliver, not costs. And finally, take a hard look at your client journey. Where can you reduce hidden costs like inconvenience, risk, or ego costs to make your services feel more valuable? When you start communicating your value clearly and pricing confidently, you'll attract clients who respect your work and value your expertise. You'll also stop feeling stuck in the cycle of overwork and undercharging. And wouldn't that be nice? I want to leave you with this thought. You already have the strength to break from the cage. The only thing holding you back is fear, and it's temporary. You can push past it. Just reach out and book your discovery call with me. Your clients deserve to see the value you bring, and you deserve to be paid for it. I would really like to end this by building on some answered questions. So thank you for your time, and ask me anything that would help anyone here, including you, take another step forward in their pricing journey. Thank you. So I'm going to stop the share. And thank you. Thank you. Okay. Cool. So I would I will not now check some of the chat messages, but also if anyone has a question, pipe up.
Yeah, I think, Philip, what I wrote in the chat earlier
Yeah.
was, I think you asked, what do we base our charge out rates or whatever it is that we charge? What do we base that on?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the challenges that we have as a company is that we have over the years based our what we charge is based on an estimate, first of all, about what the market will bear, because our prices have slowly increased and we've pushed that barrier and tried to learn what it is that the marketplace would bear. But that's not working because the ponds that we've been playing in, I think, as we look into 2025, are not the right ponds. So if we're going to change into a different pond, meaning a different cohort of people that we're going to work with, that belief system that we've built about price ceilings and what we're worth will change in a heartbeat when we work with, say, a bigger client or in a different industry. Or
Okay.
so the internal talk here at the moment is, let's change ponds.
Let's change
Let's ponds,
ponds.
change the space,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pond of
ponds.
people that we seek the attention of and that we traditionally work with. Go and play where there's bigger fish or different colors or sizes or shapes or
Okay.
something. Yeah.
Yes, and that works. What is the counterintuitive usually is sometimes the same pond, the smaller part of the same pond works. So it doesn't have to be a completely different one. So I had a client who taught companies German. Okay, that was her thing. They taught
Mhm.
companies, so they would teach your people German, and that's race to the bottom kind of thing. Uh, when companies need that, they go find somebody who will do that on the cheap. And she was at her wits end, and she wanted to change bonds. But when we did the analysis, it was more like it would be a better idea if we focused only on not companies, so not Croatian companies, it was Croatian companies, not Croatian companies, IT companies, and only companies who are already exporting their software to English-speaking countries. So they have a market out there, but they can't sell to the German-speaking countries, which is Germany, Austria, Switzerland. That's like 60 plus million people with pretty good disposable income, um, or good budgets that they currently. So Germans speak English, but they prefer to do their work and their software in German. And that's a, you could call it a fraction of the pond, right? But um, would you like your people to know German? Yeah, I can take it or leave it. But would you like to enable yourself to enter the market of 65 plus million new people? Yes. Yes, I would pay for that. Not a problem. Because everything is in place. I just can't reach them because my people can't speak it. They can't answer emails, they can't answer client calls. So by focusing on a fraction of a pond that she already had experience in, she got massive success. Massive, right? Cool. Anybody else?
Philip,
Yeah,
I don't have a question. I just want to say, brilliant presentation. I love your metaphors. You roll them out by the dozen, and it really helps communicate your message and get it across. Um, I've come here this evening Australian time really because I was curious. I personally don't have an issue at all, and you and I have
I
had
know.
conversations before. Because if a client, one other indicator is if a client jumps in very quickly and accepts your proposal, you know you're too cheap, right? That they all need to balk a little bit to know that you're really on the edge. So I just want to say it's most enjoyable, Philip. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say I recorded this. Um, I know some of you had to jump in late, so if anybody would like a recording, ping me. Um, okay. So I can see in the chat people said right. Chris said anchor pricing and then individuals from there. I'm curious at how does he individualize? Greg just left. He said what the market will bear. That's it's not that easy to see.
I can help you with mine if you want. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the anchor pricing is something which I set as a base, if you like, trying to keep that as low as I can. I work with schools, I work with teachers, and then I will have conversations with the school to find out what their needs are and create a partnership, if you like, with them, which basically listens to what their needs are, and then I can basically accommodate their needs.
Okay. And um, is this acceptable to more is better? Because this is a trap that I see so many times, right? If people pay you by the hour, and that's the usual case, then the more efficient you are, the less you get paid. And of course, you can raise your hourly price, but not to insane levels, right? And
Yeah.
your value
So
grows faster than your rate. That's a problem. Sorry.
yeah. So I don't charge by hour as such. It's more of a licensing agreement. So I'll license one
Mhm.
teacher, I'll license three teachers, or I'll license a school accordingly. So my pricing is not really my issue. I don't feel. I think my problem is more my lack of visibility.
Yep. Um, Visibility can also be a problem if they don't recognize you. I had this problem. If you talked to me 4 years ago, I would have told you I do marketing strategy. That means nothing to most people, because marketing is the vaguest thing since leadership. Uh, and strategy, I don't know what it is, but it sounds not urgent, and I have urgent stuff to do, so goodbye. Right? So I
Yeah,
called myself something which is technically correct, and I understand it. My clients don't. Until some good enterprising soul, who is also a native English speaker, which I'm not, said, "You're a pricing guy." I said, "I do so much more than just pricing." He said, "Yeah, but the tip of the top of the iceberg, the part that people see is pricing. And in order to fix pricing, I have to do the market strategy, blah, blah, blah. But you don't hear that from me until we're clear that we're solving a symptom. It's not the underlying problem. But you come to me with a cough. Maybe it's something serious. Maybe you ate too much ice cream. But you come to me as you don't come to me with an underlying problem because you don't know it's there. You just see the symptom, right? So sometimes that helps a lot. Tomislav asked me in the chat. He says, "What to do if the client thinks he knows what your service is worth, even if he has no idea objectively." This is very common. Um, And the correct answer is you need to worry them, not unduly, not unethically, duly and ethically, but worry them because they should be worried about this. Unless they are worried, I'll tell you an example. But unless they are worried, they're in the stage where they say, no, my confidence is totally up to par with this problem. So at this point, they may want to pay somebody cheap to just do what they're told. Unless they're in a mismatch, unless they feel like their confidence isn't enough, they're not interested in buying from an expert. It's just a fact. You're not going to sell an expert service to them. You might sell an expert service at the rate which has nothing to do with expert services, more on the par on cleaning office floors. So you might sell the service, you're just not going to get anything for it. So because objectively they have no idea, and this is so common, yeah, I have a cure for the disease you don't know you have. Yeah, that doesn't work, right? So you need to tell them about the trap. Oh, you can totally do this. However, this is what happened to a client that did this. However, this is a famous case from the newspapers from 2 years before. However, so I can tell you, I can see where you're going with this, and there's a chasm over there. There's a minefield, and you're currently stepping on a mine. And then they check, and then they see, oh, I totally missed this. And the point is, you don't have to point every mine, because once they see a mine, once they're aware that they would have stepped on it, they are now aware that they're in danger, because there's other mines that you haven't talked about, but if there's one, there's more of them, probably, right? And now they want to hold your hand. Without this, you're just saying stuff, right? There's something that I call the idiot email. It doesn't have to be an email. It can be a message. It can be a LinkedIn message. I did this, and it doesn't work. And it goes like this: Dear sir, or to whom it may concern, I calculated that if you hire me, you're going to get 10,000. I only cost 2,000, so don't be an idiot and hire me. Thank you. I'll wait for your call. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, just like it doesn't work if I knocked on your door and said your roof is going to fall in. You look at your roof and you say, nah, it's fine. You may be right. You may be 100% correct, and you may have the calculations, but I'm not going to read them because, firstly, I don't have the time. I don't trust you that I should. You have a major incentive to lie to me, and I can't check your work because I'm not an expert. I can look at your calculations, but I can't check them. So why would I even look, right? Yeah, that sounds like a terrible email. I've sent those, and I've got about 200 of those, and I got one of them today. It's a very, very common thing that people do because they think, it stands to reason. I can see the client benefiting from this, so it's objectively true. Who cares? The client is subjective. And if they don't see the value, it's the same as if the value isn't there. And I know it's it's frustrating, especially to engineers or engineering type people, because in engineering world, if you're right and you can prove it, it's done. Marketing is stupid like that. It just it just doesn't matter, right? Glad you liked the answer, Tomislav. So yeah, worry them, show them the mines, because they'll merrily, singing and fully confidently fall into the chasm if you don't stop them, right? Yeah, fail stories are great testimonials as well. It can work wonders. It can work wonders. Just to top it all off, I'm going to tell you one more client case, and this was a interesting one. So I got contacted by a Pakistani lady who did websites. And on her website, she said, I'm not taking anything under $700 because that's like $2 an hour, something. Um, she lives in Karachi. That's low even for there, but she can get by. Okay. Um, and she got an email from a potential client saying, I would like you to revamp my website, and I already have an offer for 600. Can you do less? So he asked her to negotiate against herself. And this is what this boiled over her frustration, and she called me and she asked me for a meeting, and it was late at night, and I said, yeah, okay, fine, let's talk. And she shows me the email, and she says, this is so disrespectful. I said, yes, it is. I never want to go through this again. I say, I fully understand. So, what do I do so this never happens again? I said, first, one thing should be clear. What is, uh, are you going to even entertain working for this guy? She said, absolutely not. And I said, you shouldn't. I'm just making sure. Okay. So what you do is you go to his website, which is in the email, and it's going to be horrible. And she says, how do you know? Well, this is not the first time that this guy did this like this. So somebody, gave him a website through gritted teeth. So it's going to be horrible. Make a huge list of everything that you would do on that website if you had all of the time and budget in the world. Attach this to the reply and say, dear sir, I would love to do your website. However, what you said should be done isn't the only thing that should be done. The whole list is in the attachment. And I would be happy to do this for $5,000. Remember, he asked her, can she do for less than 600? And she said, well, he's going to say no. I said, why do you care? You already decided you're not going to work for this guy. And at least you'll jolt him back like he jolted you. And she said, yeah, I'll do that. And she did it. And the next day she calls me again. And I said, what happened? He said, can you do it for 3,000? She said, but that's a huge drop. If I say yes, he'll know I'm desperate. I said, yes, you can't say just yes, just say yes. It would be amazing, but you can't. What you can say is, that would be very difficult, sir. So that would only be possible if 4 of these were true. If you give me 20% upfront, if you omit this text because that's easy for you and it's hard for me, so this text you'll do on your own. I'll implement it on the side, but you'll make it. You only have 2 change requests, and for free. Every other is $25 per hour. And if I like what I do, a part of the agreement is that I can use it on my website as a reference. So that's not on you, that's you agreeing to it now. Okay? The end result is she did it for $3,500 because he didn't want to pay up front. She made the back door, so if he didn't pay, she could turn it off. He paid it. All good. What happened here? How did a client that wanted to pay 500 paying 7 times more? She corrected the brief. She showed him what he missed, and he said, my last website, internally, he said, my last website, I did this, I pressed somebody because I thought it didn't matter. It did matter. It was horrible. I'm not doing this again. I need somebody who understands. This lady understands. I would rather pay her 7 times more and get something that is well done. Okay? You can ask one more question, Tomislav, not a problem. How to frame your service and the price if a good portion of your service is consulting, but the client has to do work, like a personal trainer, for instance. Most of people on this call do stuff like this. Most of them do, right? So this is not mine, but it's true. Clients either hire you for thinking or for doing. And while it's possible to get paid for thinking and then also for doing, it's basically not possible the other way around. If you come somewhere to do stuff, they're not going to see you as a thinker. To simplify, if you bring in somebody in your home to do your personal taxes, and they're done, and now you want to go out, but your babysitter just canceled, and the tax person says, your kids are not small. I'll just put on some cartoons and I'll just wait for you. Go have a nice time. I'll babysit for you, right? Maybe you say yes. But if a babysitter says, "Oh, your tax person canceled, can I do your taxes?" No, right? So I've never charged for like copywriting in my life. I did it for clients dozens of times, but I never charged for it. I say you pay for the thinking part, for the consulting part, so we together come up with something that needs to be said. How specifically is it said? I can gift that to you. You already paid enough for the thinking. This you can give it to somebody else, or I can do it for you. You're not paying extra. It's fine. If you charge enough for the thinking part, the doing part then becomes they can go for somebody cheaper. You don't care. They already paid you. What you don't want to do, what people do, especially in the creative industries, is give the thinking up front for the chance that you will be considered to be paid by the hour for doing the administrative work, the operative work that anybody can do cheaper. So don't do that, right? So get paid for your thinking first, and don't worry about the doing. That would be my advice here. Right, we're 17 minutes over time. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming. I posted the link there to my Calendly. The same one is on my LinkedIn if you missed it. I can actually post it again. So I'm very happy how this went. I'm going to repeat this in a month, but for North America friendly time, because this was at 4 a.m. their time approximately. Here we go. So for the recordings, please ping me. Ping me. So I will send out recordings, but not en masse. I'm not going to spam people. If you would like a recording, just ping me in an email or on LinkedIn, and I will provide this for you. That's not a problem. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. No? Okay, great.
Great session, Philip. Thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem.
I think we should. I think we should keep the recording and hear it from time to time as a mantra.
Excellent, excellent. Happy to have seen all of you and to have presented this, and I will continue the conversation with you guys individually. Bye.
Thanks very much. Great
Thank
job.
you. See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right.